police investigation. You wrote a report. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. Then after that report, you were ordered to change the report?
After she reviewed the freighter video, I believe.
Okay. Then let's pause there. Does the review of the freighter video, does that happen before or after you make the HR complaint?
This is before.
Okay. So then she orders you to change it.
Correct.
Okay. And then you change it.
Correct.
Okay. And that happens again before you make the HR complaint.
Correct.
And then after you make the HR complaint, what happens?
After I make the HR complaint, I get written up. I got an actual write-up. But she told me, she said, this is just going to be a verbal thing since you haven't signed off on use of force.
And when you say verbal thing, you mean verbal
counseling session, meaning verbal counsel, meaning no documents or anything like that.
Right. Okay.
So this was 7 months. This was way in October, when I was still doing training on probation pretty much. So she said just to be verbal, and I will put this into your training file.
Okay, but it became written after you went to HR.
Correct.
Now I got it. I appreciate that. Okay. So, do you know about approximately when you went to HR the second time?
Yeah, it was like March 10th.
Okay. Of 2019?
2020. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you recall. Okay. So then, what is in the chronology here, as we're trying to go in, what's the next big issue of race discrimination that you encountered at the department?
It was a lot of instances. My truck was vandalized in the patrol parking lot.
Is this your personal truck?
Yes.
Okay. And did you complain about that?
I did. I went to Sergeant Prisoneric. I sent him pictures of it. And I went to pictures of it, and he ordered the roll call full of white deputies, maybe the only black deputy, to take the report after roll call. And he said he reviewed the cameras, which I don't think he did, because my truck didn't get damaged until I made it to work, some around that area, and I didn't go anywhere. I'm a homebody. I don't go anywhere. I park in the garage and I go to work. Same things every day. I don't club. I don't do anything. I just go home, watch TV, and go back and do it all over again.
I appreciate that. So let me share this document with you here so that everybody can see it. And I believe this is 10. Am I sharing something here?
No.
No.
Oh. Hopefully that was better. There? Do you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Do you see this document, Mr. Lucky?
Yes.
What is this?
That's the truck I had at the time. It was damaged. It wasn't no crash. You tell somebody intentionally struck it or hit it, or
Okay. And what did you do with these pictures?
I sent it to Sergeant Prisoneric, and he told me that he would have someone take a report, which it never happened. I still don't have a report to this day, and it caused me not to be able to make an insurance claim, because after so many days, the insurance claim don't it don't matter anymore.
Okay. Did you ever follow up on why they didn't write a report?
I did. I was asking every day, and everybody pretended busy. He even gave them all the white deputies orders. The reason I said all white deputies because I was the only black deputy in roll call. So he gave them, or somebody take Lucky's report, and he said y'all make a report about it. And I even went to him like, hey, nobody still didn't do it. And after that, he disregarded and didn't continue to look further into it, or didn't continue to give me a police report. I can't write my own report.
So a supervisor ordered other deputies, white deputies, to do it, and the white deputies refused.
Correct.
Okay. And we can tell that they refused because they didn't do it.
Because I still don't have a report.
Okay. And then after he ordered them to do that and they refused, the supervisor took no further steps to produce the report.
Correct.
Okay. And you still don't have a report?
Still don't have a report.
Okay.
So I had to suffer a financial loss right there.
And again, did you explain to them that you thought that this happened because of your race?
Yes,
Okay. And then they didn't investigate.
correct.
Okay. I'm going to share this document here, which I believe is R9. Do you see this?
Yes.
What is this document?
That's a picture of a white Barbie doll placed in my mailbox, which I thought it was very racist.
How did this picture come to be taken?
I took the picture once I had enough. I was already having, race. I felt like I was already discriminated because of my race. I took the picture, like, okay, that's, I was fed up. I took the picture, I sent it in, attached with a long, lengthy email, about race, about my safety, about how it's been alone out there.
Is this the so-called bullying email?
Correct.
Okay. And who did you send that email to?
Everybody. I sent it. I believe I even sent it to the jail supervisors, even though they're not sworn. I sent it to every supervisor, the sheriff, and anybody attached to the email.
Okay.
Because the reason for that was because nothing was being handled every time I made complaints. And I said, if I'm sending it to hundreds of supervisors, ain't no way my complaint can't be resolved, and it still haven't got resolved. I still don't know who placed the white Barbie doll in my mailbox until I heard Gladney speak yesterday, saying that he knew about it and it was supposed to have been a joke. And Gladney never told me it was a joke. He made me believe it was a race thing.
Okay. Oh, I think this is it.
And I'm gonna say Sergeant Gladney because I know he keep throwing out that union president role, and I always looked at him as a supervisor primarily before a union president because he was always on the clock. And every time I went to him, we worked on different shifts. I was first shift, he was second shift. So when I seen him, he was about to conduct roll call, and he would step to the side and he would hear me out. He never took personal time, which he can admit to. He didn't take personal time after all my complaints, besides the one with the threats where he tried to cover up and say he was a union president.
Okay, I'm going to put in front of you our Exhibit 50. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. What is this exhibit?
That's the email I wrote to all staff regarding, my how I was mistreated due to the color of my skin, and I put it in certain context so it can look professional.
So I'm just going to read out this line that I see here. I'm no different from anybody else, maybe a rougher background, but no different from anybody else. And if it takes all this for everybody to be treated fairly, then maybe it's a good thing. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that an example of the kind of coded race discrimination complaints that you were making under the advice of Sergeant Gladney?
Correct.
Okay. Are there other examples in this?
Anywhere you see lack of cultural competency, diverse issues, that sentence about fairly treated fairly, all those are me crying out because I'm getting treated from due to the mistreated due to the color of my skin. And under Gladney's advice, don't use the race word. Don't drop the race actual word because it can create more issues, and you will be retaliated against if you bring those kind of complaints to them. So I did it the best way I could without offending anybody because I'm still working directly under certain supervisors and stuff like that.
Okay. But you do you make an overt race discrimination. Sorry, let me put it like this. What does this statement, being on black on patrol is so difficult? Is that an example of an overt statement or something else?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I should not have used the word overt. What I mean is that an obvious race-based complaint to you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, you heard Sergeant Gladney testify about piggybacking, which was my word, on your complaint. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And he sent your complaint on to a number of people. Is that right?
Correct.
They also discussed your complaint and his issues, and he got put it another way. Did you understand that he got a meeting with Molly Zillig and others because of his piggybacking on your complaint?
Yes.
Okay. And at that discussion meeting, did you understand that Miss Zillig asked Mr. Gladney to name names?
Wait, say that again.
Did you hear in Mr. Gladney's testimony that Molly Zillig asked him to name names of people who felt they were being discriminated against?
Yes.
Okay. But your name was already out there at this point, right?
Correct.
Because Mr. Gladney piggybacked on your complaint, right? Okay. Now, did Mr. Gladney ever hold himself out as speaking for Black deputies?
No.
No, okay. Did he offer himself as somebody who was available to assist Black deputies at the Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay. Was he assisting you at any time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you learned, or did you learn that Mr. Gladney offered you, let's say, help, for lack of a better word, behind the scenes without telling you about it yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that?
He reached out to higher command staff in regards to race, of what he experienced. And prior to that, we had, like he mentioned before, we had side conversations and things like that. He confirmed race and brought up plenty race examples. And, every time he'd do things like this, letting me know, okay, this is a race thing. But yesterday he acted as if he don't know race exists, even though he was saying it, but wasn't trying to say it, because he was saying, if you really want to have this talk, we can have it privately. So obviously that shows and indicates that he also believes race occurs in Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And I guess we can ask you this. Did you understood that the patrol division, or I guess based on your knowledge and experience working at the patrol division, do you believe that the racial statistics at the patrol division reflect Milwaukee County as a whole?
Yes.
Okay. Or I guess let me ask that another way. Do you believe that there is more white deputies at the patrol division than as a percentage than there are white people in the county?
It's a lack of it's a lot of Black people in the in Milwaukee.
Okay.
It's being patrolled or policed by all white patrol.
Okay. And we heard testimony from Mr. Gladney that if I'm a Black person and the sheriff's department comes, it's a very high chance that I'm going to get a white sheriff's deputy, right?
Correct. Now that's Deputy Lucky Jr. randomly pulling up.
Okay. And okay. So, and you also testified that at the beginning of your time at the patrol division, that the patrol division was mostly focused on policing Black people, right?
Correct.
Did that change at any time?
That always been the perception as far as patrol being mostly white.
Right, but it's mostly white and it's targeted at Black people. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay.
The way certain white white deputies treat Black citizens. I've been on calls with white deputies and they'll pull over a Black person. If Derek was to be irate, you got the white deputy ready to pull his gun out or his taser, versus we deal with Brian. He know how to use his verbal skills when he's talking to Brian. He know how to get Brian under control. But that same Derek and Brian have the same attitude. The Derek is the one that's being pointed at with tasers and guns. And I've been on the call, and that's what happened when they brought up when I got involved with an argument on the side of the freeway with 2 white deputies. It wasn't me being hostile or argumentative with them. They was trying to mistreat a black citizen, which they did not cover, and yelling at her like shut the F up. I mean, she was like shut your effing mouth and get in the back of the squad. This was an old lady who this was an older lady, and they was roughhousing her. And I said, my dude, like, why you don't have to talk to her like that, you know? And I pulled him to his side. So I guess they didn't want me telling him that. I guess I made that deputy lose credibility, I guess. But they not looking at this citizen it being a possible citizen complaint or a lawsuit, because they definitely mistreated that lady. And you know, and I was the only one wearing audio recording. And per policy, you're supposed to. But when I brought up that, I said, how about y'all listen to the audio recording? These 2 deputies, white deputies, didn't have their audio recording, which I try to rely on these, Smoot and Chris Nerich. They didn't care to discipline them for not having proper equipment. I have proper equipment. Can y'all just look at the body cam and listen to the thing? They still counseled me and put that into my file, and not put it into the white deputies file that they didn't wear proper things and they lied on the scene. They mistreated the black lady.
Okay.
So that's how that confusion happened, and I was counseled for it, but they made it look as if I was this hostile black person being argumentative with my peers, and that wasn't the case. I was trying to be the right guy and make sure the public was treated fairly. And don't just be this hostile person dealing with black people, and you don't have that same energy with white citizens.
And you heard testimony that Mr. Smoot, you participated in Mr. Smoot teaching cultural competency, is that right?
Correct.
And that's the same class in which he was participating and laughing at you, giving you a presentation on cultural competency?
Correct.
Okay. And based on that presentation by Mr. Smoot, do you believe that the sheriff's deputies on road patrol are culturally competent towards black people?
No, they're not cultural competent at all. When I talk, I use my hands. My eyes get open, as you can see. Talking, sometimes I get loud. I don't mean harm. I'm not about to strike you, attorney. I'm not. That's just who I am as a person. And you know, they just like buyers. I'm not sure why she feared me or why she get very timid around me. She's very shaky around me, and that is true. I believe she do fear being around me just off how her actions are. She's very timid. Voice gets shaky, and she seems like she's lost when she's dealing with me. It lets me know that she just have an issue with black people.
Okay, but you saw that inability to communicate and interact with black people throughout the sheriff's department, right?
Correct.
Okay, and as you were explaining, you saw that with sheriff's department employees and the public.
Correct.
Okay, but that was also occurring with sheriff's department employees and yourself, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, at that time, there were black people in management, right?
No. Supervisor deputies?
Sure. In your patrol area, were there any black management?
No.
Okay. But in the lofty heights of the chief deputy and the sheriff, do you know what race they were?
They were black.
Okay. But below them, could you think of any other manager that was besides Mr. Gladney that wasn't white?
No, you had Captain Stowers eventually down the road towards the end of my tenure with them. Captain Stowers, but I didn't deal with them at all. He promised me a meeting with Sergeant Byers, and that never happened. So he allowed more issues to progress, and I was reaching out to him via email, verbally, sat in his office, and he was supposed to conduct a meeting with Byers, and he pushed it off on COVID, said, hey, COVID going on, all right, I'm going on vacation next week. So as he was being more absent, Byers kept finding a way to come for me.
Okay, so this is Mr. Stowers, who was a black person in management.
Correct.
Okay, and he was putting you off. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Is that similar to what Mr. Gladney was doing or something else?
Same.
Okay, so the 2 black people in management at the sheriff's department, when you came to them with race issues, they kept putting you off. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay.
and Gladney was on second shift, so he wasn't my direct supervisor, but he was in a supervisor capacity when I went to him with my problems.
Now, okay, and I got that. Did you go to Miss Ball at any time?
I requested to speak with her numerous of times, and she never ever gave me the opportunity to speak with her or Lucas.
Okay, and so that's the actual black managers put you off on white managers. Is that fair?
Correct. They already had created this bad image about me, so I feel like I believe they didn't want to deal with me because of the image, the narrative they painted about me already. So they didn't want to deal with me or see me or anything like that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you our exhibit 12. Do you see this exhibit?
Yes,
Okay, and what's the date?
March 4th, 2021.
So it's about 6 months before you're terminated, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so this is Danita Ball to who?
Gladney.
Okay, and who else?
Inspector Hughes was copied in it.
Are you copied on there?
No,
No, okay. So you don't get to go directly to Miss Ball for to make this complaint, right?
correct.
And we heard Mr. Gladney testify that there would be significant consequences if you did, right?
Correct.
So you had to have Mr. Gladney go to Miss Ball for you, right?
He did.
Okay, and he actually did that.
Correct. He was able to reach out to her and get a hold of her. I wasn't able to.
So she says this is pretty unusual for the chief deputy to be talking to a sergeant, right?
Yes. For him, I believe whoever they tend to have a relationship with, I guess. But
Well, there's between sergeant, how many steps is it up to chief deputy?
a bunch. Like you got sergeant, lieutenant, captain,
Inspector, maybe.
yeah, inspector. Yeah, inspector.
Okay. So is that like 5 hops? Okay. And then she says that she directs Inspector Hughes to schedule a meeting with Deputy Lucky so that he can hear his concerns. Did that meeting ever happen?
That meeting happened with Inspector Hughes.
Did Inspector Hughes ever address your concerns?
We spoke, but it didn't get anywhere because him and Byers is like this. She sent me to somebody who's Byers always been under his umbrella, and Gladney can tell you that. And they are like this. You're gonna always wherever division and he is, he's gonna always protect Byers, and that's always been the rumor and the fact around the sheriff department. So he's gonna make sure Byers is taken care of. So I'm having a meeting with one of Byers' best friends, which I didn't feel comfortable per policy. If I feel uncomfortable, I get to jump the chain of command.
Did you know that at the time that there was a connection or an alleged connection between Hughes and Byers?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's why I want to speak with Danita Ball.
so then did you actually have the meeting with Hughes?
I did.
How long did that last?
It wasn't long at all. It was more of him blaming every complaint I had, everything I raised. He switched it out on me. You don't think it's you? And lucky it's you because everything just backfired on me. Everything I told to him.
So he addressed your race complaints by saying that it was actually your problem.
It was he was blaming me and saying I was overthinking everything and doing. It was not a successful meeting at all.
Okay. Is there any time in the history of your career with the sheriff's department that anyone acknowledged your race-based complaints?
No.
Was there ever a time in the sheriff's department when anybody pretended that you didn't make a complaint?
You said it again.
For example, was there any time in the sheriff's department where your complaint was lost, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, my complaint was definitely lost through HR.
Okay. So this is your first complaint to HR?
Yes, the one that was lost.
Okay. And but at no time, and you saw there was an email from Ms. Byers saying that the department needs to get out ahead of this and get you some outside resources. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And she seems to acknowledge that there's some kind of discrimination going on. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Other than that, is there any other time when anybody in management even acknowledged that there might be a possibility that you were suffering race discrimination at the county?
Everybody was on notice, and everybody were acknowledging and was aware of it. That's yeah, everybody, and I believe that was why the switch for me being on patrol. They moved me to the courts division. Well, Gladney, I just found out Gladney did that, and he had me believing it was other people when it was him that moved me.
Okay, so Gladney told you about the reason, he gave you a reason that you were transferred from patrol to courts, is that right?
He said that I'm not sure why they moved you. I'm not sure why you moved you. And yesterday during his testimony, it's the first time I ever knew about it was him that made that call.
Okay. So at the time, did you believe that the sheriff's department was responding to your complaints?
No,
Why not?
everything we ignored. Every complaint that I had, I was surely retaliated against, and it made it seem as if I was a crazy person. And they even suspended my arrest powers after I wrote that large email seeking out for help. And I wasn't like going through anything emotionally outside of work. All my work stress came from work.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Let's pause there for a second. So the bullying email, that led to your arrest powers being taken away by Mr. Stiff, right?
Sure.
Okay. And that's the one that Mr. Gladney, that Mr. Gladney meets with Ms. Sillig about, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you met with her about that.
Well, didn't you hear Mr. Gladney testify that he met with Ms. Zillig about after piggybacking on your complaint?
Yeah, yes, I heard him say it yesterday.
Okay. And because part of what I'm asking is that's the arrest powers being taken away is a result of the bullying complaint email.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote that large email. They set up a meeting, and before I spoke, I said, "You sure it's not going to backfire?" Because I just, he said, "No, you're good. You're not going to get written up. You're not in trouble." And I still ended up getting in trouble after speaking during the interview. And they said it was something I said, and I can say exactly what I said during the recording. And I'm sure, and I was looking for the recording, and I didn't see it from Stiff. But during the recording, I voiced, I let them know about my race discrimination complaint. I let them know about all the issues that was going on.
And I'm sorry, you're describing here a conversation with Mr. Stiff.
Correct.
Regarding the law enforcement, which eventually led to your law enforcement officer powers being taken away.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you're saying you only seen a transcript of that, but you've not seen the recording of that. Is that right?
I didn't see a transcript either.
Okay.
But I know because I remember that meeting fairly well with Stiff. I'm the one that opened up to him. And I'm not gonna lie, I was all over the place, not in chronological order. I wasn't all over the place because I wasn't telling the truth or making up anything. I was telling the truth, but since so many instances happened as far as me being racially discriminated against, I couldn't quickly come up and put everything into order because that meeting was very right after I did that email. So I didn't get time to put anything into chronological order.
But is it fair to say you discussed your race-based complaints at that meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, your arrest powers are taken away, you have to go to psych evaluation, and then they give you your arrest powers back, right?
Yes.
What message, if any, did you take away from that?
I felt racially discriminated against, and I felt like that was retaliation. They was trying to shut me up. Because for their therapist, they private psych doctor, he told me his name is Dr. Calvin Lucky, Ain't nothing wrong with you. You're smart. I can tell by your posture, the way you're talking. There's nothing wrong with you. He said he'd been in this situation before. I know what the county is trying to do. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm a go ahead, clear you, go back to work. And he said this happened before. And he said when he looked at the report, everything that I told him about my race complaint, they never included into the report that they did to when they referred me over to him. They never put my part in that eval. They just did it to make me look like a monster and took keywords and flipped it around from the meeting I had with investigators still.
And is that what they did, according to the testimony we've heard so far with the complaint about the freighter incident and the sheriff?
Correct.
Okay. And so based on the testimony that we've heard so far, do you recall who was the last person who understood, who had all the information of your side of the story before it went to the sheriff?
Gladney.
Okay. And then I guess I want to back up.
Wait, what part?
No, I understand. Thank you. We're talking about before the recommendation to terminate you, right? Do you recall who's the last person who had all the information about you filing the ERD complaint?
HR. Gladney. But somehow they lost some of my complaints through HR because Mary Kay was apparently retired and nobody could find that. And I went to her with racial discrimination complaints, and I don't know what happened to that.
Okay, but we heard that in the discussion for Mr. Novotny, for example, in the meeting in which the sheriff decided to terminate you, that there was no discussion of your ERD complaint. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, and there was no discussion of your race-based complaints, right?
Correct.
Okay. And or your accusation that internal affairs was retaliating against you.
Correct.
Okay. Is that similar to the restriction on information that was given to the psychologist?
He didn't know any of my, yes, he didn't know any of my race things. They didn't turn that over to them. They didn't let him know that I made complaints or let them know I was fearing for my safety or was mistreated due to the color of my skin and things like that.
Is that similar to what the Corporation Council has done and keeping the Mary Paul notes from us?
Yes. And Stiff did have something in there, but he didn't put my actual complaints in there and what led up to the point, but like I said before, he stated he knew exactly what the county was doing. He didn't want to be involved.
Okay.
And I also seen therapists, outside therapists too.
Okay, and I think we'll have a chance to get into that in 1 second. I'm going to show you here Exhibit 6. Did you see this? It's over here. Across the way. What is this email, if you know?
That's me requesting, for my employee file from HR.
Okay, when does this happen?
That one say I did it April 10th, but this email say April 11th, and so they had some kind of emailing going on after I went to them.
Okay, and what was the reason for you requesting your employment file at this time?
To get my employees file, and to also update and let Mary DeKay know there were the issues still going on.
Okay, was there any missing did you learn of the missing documents at this time?
I don't see my complaint in there in the email. They just speaking about just the records.
Okay. But did you get these records?
Never received those records.
Okay. So this is
still don't got the records.
This is approximately 5 months before you were terminated, and you requested your employment record but never received it. Is that right?
No, this is 2019.
19. Okay.
Nope, I never received it from HR.
Okay.
I received some of it during the discovery request. Other than that, that's the first time I ever seen this, everything.
Okay.